Let's talk about weather conditions. Heat stress and cold stress. If your job is to be out and about, and you're out in the field, has anybody ever talked to you about heat stress, keeping hydrated, making sure that if it's extremely, do you have timelines or how long you're allowed to be outside, or are you not allowed to work if the heat index is above 95? Do you have any guidance like that anywhere? Has anybody put out any guidance? How about the environmental staff or the drinking water folks that are out in the field? Have anybody give you any guidance on that, or is it just using your own common sense and knowing your own body?
Michelle, I don't know if it's like written guidance anywhere, but we absolutely provide hydration products, ice coolers to keep fluid in for our environmental health officers and staff. We do look at heat index. Our environmental health manager, Brian Stanley, is pretty good about that. If it's really, really hot out there, he'll limit them to 2 hours at a time being in the field. Okay. But I don't know that that's written anywhere. I don't know if that's just his good sense common policy or what, but I know that when we've had periods where it's been really hot, we want to prevent heat stroke and things like that, and we don't want them to be exposed to that. So we try to take those good common sense measures.
I think that's important to make sure that somebody's looking at that from the perspective of how hot is it outside, how long do they have to be outside, are they getting hydrated, and sometimes what's worse, and I don't always recommend this, is you work out in the field for 2 hours, you come into an air-conditioned place, and then you're back outside for 2 hours, and then you come in to an air-conditioned place. That cycle of heat, cool, heat, cool, heat, cool actually can be worse for you. What we recommend is if you're going to be out in the field, stay hydrated, maybe come under a shaded area and let your body acclimate to the temperatures, then do your heavy exertion type work that you have to do. Take a break, let your body cool down in the shade, and continue that way. So the big important things, if it's way too hot out, and some agencies have a policy that says, if the heat index is above 105, they're not going to be working out. If it's above 100, they're not going to work out. If it's outside, if it's above 95, they're not going to work out, but that they provide hydration and fluids, and may have to work alternate work schedules. That's the other thing. If it's supposed to be 102 degrees at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe we do a work shift and we start at 6:30 in the morning and do all our heavy labor in the morning, and then have the afternoon for the office environment. So I'm not sure if anybody does flex scheduling that way, so that they're working in the cooler or the off hours versus the heat of the day, which is from about noon to 4. Does anybody do that? Do alternating work schedules?
We have done that here in Cumberland.
Okay. How about cold stress? Anybody talk about the cold weather? Making sure people, if they're outside for long periods of time, working in wet environments when it's cold, that they have waterproof, or that they're frequently changing their shoes and their socks if their feet get wet, so that they don't have cold issues. Cold stress is just as dangerous as heat stress. We just don't realize it until after the damage is already done. And the best example I can give you is when you were a little kid and it snowed and you're out there playing in the snow, your gloves are wet, your feet are wet, you're playing, and you finally decide to come in, and all of a sudden you start to thaw out and your fingers hurt really bad and they burn, and your toes. You're actually doing some damage to your to your skin, your blood vessels, and your nerves. So make sure you think about those things too when you're outside and it's really cold, the temperature's really dropped, it's really windy. Make sure you're bundling up and you're not being exposed excessively to the cold weather. Anybody got a lightning policy about working out when it's raining and lightning? Or is that just your own judgment? Remember, if you're out and about, we've had a lot of lightning strikes. We've had a lot of people in the Commonwealth of Virginia struck by lightning when they're out and about working. So remember, think about that. Think about weather conditions. It goes back to the whole driving and traveling and making sure that you know what the weather's supposed to be like in the event a freaky storm comes up or something happens, that you take shelter and not put yourself in harm's way. What about other hazards? So when I mean by other hazards, some of you probably come across barbed wire, electrical fences. You may have to climb over fences to get places. Poor road conditions, high winds, you get lost. Anybody ever come across any of that stuff? If you're traipsing through somebody's field to do whatever task that you have to do, or somebody's farm, or have you thought about the pesticides and herbicides that you might have come in contact with on your clothes? Okay. This is the situational awareness I want you to think about. We're with the drinking water. There's a well that needs to be tested. It's in the middle of a field. The farmer plants around it. So we have to traipse through the field to get to this well. We've walked through all this stuff. He's applied chemicals and pesticides and herbicides. It's all on our clothes. It's that white powdery stuff, or it's liquid. And we do our job. We walk out and we go home. Are we washing our clothes with other family members' clothes in the laundry? Or are we washing those clothes separately from our family members? These are things you got to think about. If you're and it could even be a restaurant. You go into a restaurant somewhere, and there's it's filth, it's dirty, you've got stuff sprayed on you or splattered on you, and you go home and you put your clothes in the regular laundry, and then they're washed with the rest of your family's laundry. What potential exposure are you providing to the other members of your family? So my recommendation is always, if you are in or exposed to those types of situations, wash your clothes separately from the rest of your family. We don't know what could potentially happen. We don't know that. I often recommend that, if you've been heavily soiled in something, some sort of chemical, something that's, you're just not sure what it is, run another cycle through the washing machine and wash it down really good before you put your family's clothes through that washing machine. And the best example I can give you where this was a very common occurrence and a very big practice way back when was with asbestos. People worked with asbestos all day long. They brought it home to their families. It didn't change. They washed their clothes with other family members, and then those family members were exposed to the asbestos fibers. So think about those things. Think about where you are and what you're bringing home to your family. Anybody have to ever cross a stream or a lake or, a little ditch, a culvert, something to get across to the other side? If you do, what you want to make sure of is that you look at the speed of the water. How fast is it moving? You want to test the depth of the water. Even though you can see the bottom, sometimes there's parts that are deeper than others. If you have to cross, you kind of want to cross at an angle. You want to kind of do like a shuffle on the bottom of the bed of the stream or the lake or the river or whatever you're crossing, because there may be mold or slime growing on the bottom, and it could be slippery, causing you to slip and fall. So kind of go at an angle, try to find the narrowest spot to cross. If you can't see the bottom, use a stick or something to check the depth of the water. If you have to get wet and you're going to get wet, try to do it at a time of day where you'll dry faster. Try not to cross water in the colder weathers where, it could cause freezing temperatures. If you have to cross and it's deeper water, then you either need to look for an alternative location or obtain a personal flotation device so that if for some reason you got swept away, you'd at least have a life vest on and maybe help save you.